Okay, my friends, boring time. Brexit, the truth. We saw so many lies during the campaign before the referendum. Lie after lie after lie. So here, it's about time somebody gave you the truth. Now, a large amount of you who were persuaded, dissuaded, or conned before you voted are of an age where you cannot remember the history of the European Union. But I remember the day they signed it, and I watched it. We signed up for free trade, no trade tariffs. However, it became apparent that countries doing this needed to have some of their laws in harmony, and so there was the European Commission that began issuing a regulation. A regulation from the European Commission is to every country that's a member and instructs them that this is the new law, and the government of that country has to put that into its legislation. Or they might issue a directive. A directive is against one country or a number of countries and is regulated by the European Court of Justice, but the same thing is the truth. You've got to actually put it in law. And when the European Commission found out how much power it had got, it's gone from there. They have melded politics and business, and they're two different things. Politics is about power. Business is about trading for profit. And the only time they come together is in a sensitive area. If you're selling state-of-the-art components for nuclear use and your government doesn't like who you're selling them to, they won't give you a license to ship it. Other than that, the only relationship between business and politics is when the politicians are trying to work out the gross domestic product, how much business we did going out and how much we spent coming in and what's the net result, the bottom line. However, our problem is we had so many people, and the greatest liars were on the Remain side. And these were the people who were basically, they were on the TV all day, every day, and it was lie after lie after lie. And what they did, I think they ought to put some of them, Blair, Cameron and Osborne, they ought to go in court and be tried for treason. The one crime that we can still execute people over if they're found guilty. Treason. Why, you might say? That's when the history lesson begins. This little island with a few million people on it, hundreds of years ago, established something called the British Empire. And the British Empire covered 2/3 of the known civilized world. And because there was a small island here of only a few million people, what we had to do was trade. So we taught the rest of the world how to trade. And to facilitate that trade, we built the largest merchant fleet of ships the world's ever seen. And we were trading all day, every day, all over the world. Such is the nature of the British people. Now, in latter years, through politics, we don't have the empire. But as these countries came out of the empire, they wanted to stay in touch with the mother country. There was a link between us. They didn't want to let go, which is why we now have 53 countries around the world who are the British Commonwealth. And what was the link? The Queen. She holds it all together. She is loved. Matters not which country she goes to that's a member of the Commonwealth, the turnout is 90-odd% to see her. She knows what I'm talking about. But now let's get back to Europe and this country. 70 years ago, Most of our trading partners were laid on the floor with their hands over their heads to avoid the jackboots stomping all over them, but it never happened in the UK. Why? Well, Winston Churchill was a bit of a hard man, but behind him were the British people. The strength and determination and resilience of the British people has never ever been in doubt over the years. You only have to look in your history books. And these Remainers, or shall we call them Remoaners now they've lost, forget all of that. It's the deal is, my question is, these Remoaners, maybe they disregarded the strength and resilience of the British people because they know the real figures, the real number of people who have come from somewhere else to live in this country. Maybe they thought that we'd been too diluted. And remember the 1.5 million, we don't know who they are, where they came from, how they got in, where they are now, how they're making the money. There's about 1.5 million of them, which is blatant proof that we are not managing our borders. And I can tell you another story about managing borders. I have personal experience about how we are not doing the job. But anyway, we come back to the strength and resilience of the British people. I mean, it was our brilliant engineering and manufacturing that gave us the Spitfires and the Hurricanes that held Hitler away until Pearl Harbor and America stepped in, and because of all the amount of money that we owed America through business, they couldn't let us go down, so they came in and helped us. Between us and America on one side and the Russian winter on the other side, Hitler was in the pincers. We got him. But we couldn't have done that if we, the British people, did not have that strength and resilience that I'm talking about. So, trying to keep this fag in. This rolling back here is so wet. Anyway, we've got the Remoaners who want us to stay in a market of 508 million people. A market that tells us what our laws are going to be, with a court that enforces any judgment they have against us, and tells us we've got to take anybody who wants to come from anywhere in Europe, doesn't matter how many, we've got to take them. Now this little island is full. We need to be shutting the doors and picking and choosing who comes in and how many, which is what the people of this country knew when we went to the referendum. That's what they voted for. They voted to shut the borders down and be very careful. They voted to stop Europe interfering in our legislation, to stop the European Court of Justice telling us what we can and can't do. That's what we voted for. So, when it comes to Europe, our negotiators, the three of them, Liam Fox, David Davis, and good old Boris Johnson, I love him. They're heading up the negotiations. And they've only got one thing that they can do. Their hands are tied. They have to sit down and say, freedom of movement is not on the table anymore. Our borders need to be controlled. That's what our people voted for. The European Commission telling us what our laws are going to be is over. That's what our people voted for. The European Court of Justice having any jurisdiction whatsoever over what goes on in our country is finished. That's what our people voted for. So we can sign the deal now. We're out. unless you want to walk away and consider how you might divorce your politics from trade, and thereby the negotiation starts, right? And we can't give way on any of those 3 points. We cannot, because the people of the country voted for it. So, all of these people who have illusions in their head about how it might be, hard exit, soft exit, and all the rest of it, it's an exit. Call it hard, call it soft, whatever. We are out. However, think about things out. We're out of a closed market of 508 million. That gives us 6,700 million people around the world to deal with. And they've been beating the path to our door. They all want to know about, let's get it negotiated, let's get it all written up, let's have it ready to be signed. On the day you're out of Europe, I'll be in London, I'll come and sign. It used to be in the butchers, the cheapest cut of meat was lamb because we bought it from New Zealand. Maybe we can go back there again, because these days lamb's the dearest cut in the butchers, isn't it? However, we've got another thought there. A lot of what we grow and produce in this country is sold to Europe. We might move back to the days when 80% of everything that we grew in this country was sold in our own supermarkets, where we ate our own food. That means no exports, but it also means no imports. And it might actually put a good spin on the balance of trade figures that we have with Europe. We are currently about £90 million a year worse off by trading with Europe, because we buy more from them than they buy from us. And then we have to add on to that the cost of being in Europe. It's bloody expensive. Whereas we might find better markets elsewhere in the world, and we might find better suppliers. Our gross domestic product at the moment stands at 2% growth for the last 12 months. I believe once out of Europe it'll be somewhere between 4 and 6%. I also believe we will never get to the end of the negotiations. There were cracks in Europe before we took our vote. And the UK is one of the most substantial countries in Europe, apart from Germany, who are the strongest. And the biggest loser is Europe. And our vote widened those cracks. And when we've got 27 countries trying to decide what to do, and one of them's being belligerent and saying, well, if you want out, you're out, end of story. Somebody else saying, hang on a minute, we do all our business with the UK. We can't afford to lose that business. Those cracks are going to get wider. Europe may fail, it may split before we get near the end of any negotiations. And when you think about the elections this spring in France and Germany and the Netherlands, there may be some changes there which will have a great effect on Europe and its ability to hold itself together. And we now have Greece back in trouble again, wanting more money, but their left-wing government very reluctant to put into place the right-wing economics being demanded by Europe to allow any more money to be freed up for Greece. The whole thing is a political nightmare, and the best thing we ever did was to decide to get out of it. We don't need to be involved with that lot. So, but let's just look about some things. We know politics is about power, but business is about trade and profit. Now, each year there is an intertrade between the UK and Germany of £35 billion in cars and car parts. In England, if you've got a few bob extra at the end of the month, you might want to drive a Mercedes or a BMW, your status symbol. But in Germany, the same person, their status symbol is a Jaguar or a Range Rover. If you look at the size of the German car building industry and add to it all of those voters who want to be able to continue buying our cars at the right price, that lobby is so big the German government cannot handle it. And so there would be a deal between Britain and Germany on car trade. And if Europe tried to get involved with putting on excesses, taxes, surcharges and the rest of it, they wouldn't get away with it. And there will be other similar deals between the UK and individual countries which Europe won't be able to touch. So we're in a very strong position here. I think our status in the world will go up. I'm sure that our 2% will move to between 4 and 6% growth per year, being out of Europe. I also can see an industry evolving where countries around the world are knocking on European doors and they're not getting an answer. Whereas we know which door to knock on and who's going to be behind it. We might be the sort of introductory agent between countries wanting to talk to Europe, and that is its own little industry. And while we're doing that, we can say to the country asking us for help, well, have a look at this list here. There's 10 companies here that are in the UK that can do what you're looking for. Have a look at those. If you don't find what you want, we'll put you in touch with Europe for a price. You know, I mean, I think our status in the world will be up, not down, because we're not in Europe, but we are in touch with Europe. It's going to be a different world. So don't have any fears. We've always been one of the strongest countries in the world, and we are not going to change now. We may find that our strength increases. But I want to ask you a question, right? There are no accusations here, just a question or two. We've seen tennis, millions washing around, allegations of match fixing and bad betting. We've seen the same in cricket, and in fact in cricket it's been proved. Millions washing around. Let's just up the ante to FIFA. In FIFA there's billions washing around, and we've seen the level of corruption that was reported there. So the question is, in Europe, where the biggest loser for us coming out is Europe itself, and there are trillions washing around in Europe, did they have a little fighting fund to pay for securing a Remain result in the UK? If so, we need a totally independent auditor to find out how much money was in there and where it came from. More important, where did it go to? That independent audit needs to be looking at the people who are in the news every day talking about this, that and the other. If you come out of Europe, how bad it's going to be. We need to have a look at their finances and see if they got paid. We've got Tony Blair opening his mouth, a wholly and totally discredited person in the realm of politics, is now put together a foundation to try and persuade the British people they were wrong and to change their minds and decide to stay in Europe. Where's that money coming from? Is Europe paying him for that? Many, many questions, all of which need answers. And I really hope that nobody will be stupid enough to try and persuade me that there wasn't some kind of financial arrangement from Europe to try and secure a Remain vote in this country. Because I wouldn't believe it. I'm too much of a realist. I've been watching politics for way too long. I have a website that delves into politics. It's www.causticbites.co.uk. That is spelled CAUSTIC-BYTES.co.uk. If you look on there, it's read all over the world every day. There are many, many pages of seriously good information, but there is political commentary going back over the years. And you can see my stance on it. I don't believe politicians, I don't trust them. We have in our country, in the UK, a two-party system of voting, which goes back to the late 1600s, the 1680s. When Parliament, when the Crown ceded the power of governance to Parliament. And in those days it was the Tories and the Whigs. The Whigs being the forerunners of the Liberals. And they ran the show. And they said, oh my God, we've got to give them the vote, but we can't give them the brains to know how to use it. And of course in the 1680s there was no internet, no TV, no radio. And they decided they had to come up with a system that ensured that only either the Tories or the Whigs could win an election, and they came up with the two-party vote based on constituencies. Well, the constituencies have been around a long time. It was 1371 when the first written record of a constituency meeting was laid down. And the constituencies were run by a sheriff, and each one of them could send 2 members to Parliament, except London, which could send 4. And in those days, the richest 2 men who gave the sheriff the most money got to be the MPs. In other words, the system in this country is based on corruption, always has been. Not much different now. We had 1.5 million Scots who gave us 56 SNP MPs. But nearly 4 million UKIP voters got 1 MP. That's not democracy, that's shamocracy. We need to bring in proportional representation, which would stop all of that. But the other part of it is, when Fishface opens her mouth, that's Nicola Sturgeon. Every time I hear her speak, she underlines my commitment. I believe Theresa May should put a bill before Parliament to remove Scotland from the United Kingdom. Get rid of them. Let's put up some border controls, renege the passports, make them have their own Scottish passports, which would not be would not be European passports. Let them stand on their own feet. Let them see what their economy is like when they're not getting the billions that we give them. And that's 56 MPs out of Parliament, and we are trying to reduce the number of MPs in Parliament. That'd be a good deal, wouldn't it? So, I'm sorry about the history lesson, but I sincerely hope that I've helped you somewhat. And have no fears, and don't listen to all of these reminders. This country did the right thing, deciding to come out of something that is failing and will fail, and we will be so much better off on our own when the strength and resilience of the British people and British business can go out there in the rest of the world and do its very best for this country. We'll be fine. Thank you for watching.